On Hot Copy this morning, the Philippine Education's Chief Vice President Sara Duterte determined to have full in-person classes by November. That's despite a warning by several private schools that this may force them to close altogether. The schools say they've been preparing for a hybrid system and not full face-to-face classes. Some private schools are worried that some of their students based overseas may cancel their enrollment.
Tuloy na po tayo, napresenta na po ito doon sa unang-unang cabinet meeting natin. Ito po yung pinakaunang tinanong ng ating Pangulo sa Department of Education. Nag-present na po kami, nag-cite po kami ng mga research papers to support our position na magsimula tayo mag-transition to 5 days in-person classes. And na-release na po natin ang guide for school year 2022 to 2023, our Department Order 34.
Duterte says health protocols will be strictly implemented in schools. She gave this assurance after parents expressed concern over keeping their children safe from COVID.
Po sa COVID-19 guidelines and protocols natin, nilagay po natin yan doon sa Department Order 34, yung nirelease po natin last Tuesday. Nakalagay doon, very basic lang po yung guide natin, ang pinaka-importante po doon is yung pagsusuot ng mask. Yun naman pong facilities na kailangan nila, no, in the event na there is no hand washing facility or wala silang mahanap na alternative hand washing facility, alcohol is always an option and an alternative. Doon naman po sa symptoms checking, nilagay po natin yun doon sa department order na ang parents po dapat ang mag-check sa kanilang mga anak. And if the learner feels unwell, ang learner po ay ilagay ng school sa online, nasa blended mode of delivery ng kanyang instructions.
A new survey shows majority of Filipinos are in favor of the resumption of face-to-face classes. Based on a Pulse Asia survey commissioned by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, 94% of respondents strongly agreed that in-person learning be resumed. 4% were undecided, while only 2% disagreed. All right, joining us this morning on Hot Copy is Leo ABERION, the spokesperson of the Federation of Associations of Private Schools and Administrators, or FAPSA. Good morning to you, Leo. Leo, magandang umaga sa'yo. Can you hear me? All right, we're having audio problems. Perhaps better.
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me well?
Yes, Karen.
All right.
Magandang umaga po, Karen.
Okay, a clarification for those watching us. The opening of classes that's been determined for public schools is this August, for private schools this November. So Leo, why is FAPSA against 100% face-to-face when frankly speaking, dinelay na nga to November ang private schools?
Okay. Karen, kasi during enrollment, ahead yung mga private schools na sa end of the school year. So we prepared for our enrollment earlier, and we even have schools already started this July. So we have options, the different learning options, the hybrid, the flexible learning, the blended learning offered to our parents. That's why this is our appeal to the Secretary, VP Sara Duterte. This is not to disagree because that's already an order, but on behalf of the member schools of FAPSA, we are appealing to have a leeway on behalf of the private schools because we have prepared others. We have already signed our contract for the learning management system and many others. Yes.
Okay, so what you're essentially saying is you have parents that have already paid, They've signed contracts for a specific type of learning, which is most likely online yung iba, hybrid yung iba, and that goes on for what school year? 2022 to 2023.
Yes, I agree.
Tama ba
Yes,
yun?
yes,
And
that's right.
so that is your prime concern. That's the
Yes.
prime concern.
Yes, Karen. And
Okay.
also, we are moving forward for digital technology. So we are, since the private schools, of course, we have the tuition fee. Most of the parents can afford, they can choose whatever type of learning modality, especially in terms of
So
technology.
is digital learning, I mean, the inclusion of that, is that more expensive than the typical tuition in the past?
Not necessarily, Karen. It depends on what the grade level, because we have from the school, it's different mode or different rate. We also have from the elementary and then the junior high school, and especially in the senior high school, we include immersion already. Digital.
But then why wouldn't FAPSA, for example, want full face-to-face? Number one, all over the world, Pilipinas na ang kulelat. Tayo na lang halos ata ang hindi naka-full face-to-face. So many are lauding Vice President Sara Duterte's decision to actually go on face-to-face, because Secretary Briones, for the time, was criticized by some sectors for it. Number two, it's been proven that online learning is not as effective as face-to-face, especially with younger students. I'm a parent myself. I've seen it with my kids, and I pushed for full face-to-face with my kids. And my younger son is going on full face-to-face with a private school. So make me understand why you would push for not full face-to-face.
Karen, it's not that all schools don't want the full face-to-face.
But
So,
you
yeah.
as an educator, I mean, you're an educator, I'm assuming. You own a
Yes.
school, most likely. You're part of
Yes.
this organization. Why would you be the person to not want face-to-face? That's what I want to understand.
Yeah. What our concern, Karen, is we have, since the pandemic, we have different, what you call this, flexible distance learning. And then we have this flexible learning options. And it's not totally that we have, because some of the concerns of our member schools are there are students who are abroad, especially during the school year, in the middle of the school year. They went abroad with their parents, for example. So that's their concern. And also, especially in the Visayas that we are affected by Odette, some of the schools are still renovating. So yeah, that's our concern. Yeah.
But would this be all the private schools? I mean, let's be honest. You're giving me specific examples. Are these just specific schools that will be affected? Because I have heard, for example, in international schools, you do have many of the students, in fact, they're already full, that you have many who are already coming back to the Philippines. So are you specifically pertaining to certain schools or private schools in general?
We are appealing only for some schools, not totally 100% of the private schools. So that's why we are appealing for to give some of these schools an option, especially for those who have prepared already for hybrid learning for this school year.
So what will you do now with the Vice President's order?
So we are asking for, we will be writing a letter to the Vice President, who is also our Deputy Secretary. We would like to appeal, but of course, it's her decision at the end of the day.
But is it a financial consideration? Is this a health consideration? Because let's face it, you have so many students that have been out in the last few months.
Yeah.
You have many people traveling, many students in malls. You have many people, students, frankly, going out, watching movies, even going to bars, eating out. So the concern of, for example, health, it's COVID is here to stay.
Yes. I understand the logic of the department order, because we can see the children already strolling in the malls. They're going out
They're all
already.
out.
Yeah,
So
they're
the
all out.
excuse of the
And
fear in classrooms,
Mm.
it doesn't quite connect. That's what I
yeah,
wanted to ask. So,
it's not necessarily on the issue of infection, but it's about the learning platform that we are offering to our parents. And some of the schools who are already in place, they are afraid that these parents might withdraw their enrollment because
but
the
why would they withdraw when they want their students? No parent would want their child to stop learning. No parent would want their child to stop going to school.
yeah, Karen, because of the distance learning that we had during the pandemic, it's not only possible for students within the locality or within the community. So we offer it. We entertain students within the country from other provinces, for example. So that's our concern.
All right. So it's really more about the school. It's really more about the school, that the
Yes.
school has already had new products in effect, no?
Yes.
For students all over the Philippines. So
Yes.
how could you then marry the order of the vice president and the concern of private schools when it comes to essentially it's a program. And
Yes.
it's a financial issue as well.
Yeah.
How
So
would
that's
you
why
connect that then?
that's why, Karen, we are appealing to the vice president, who is also our deputy secretary, Sara Duterte, to give us an option, and then so that also we have the reason for our parents to explain
Oo.
based on the
So your concern is not primarily health. That's not the issue.
that's not the issue anymore.
Okay, because there were talks that FAPSA was saying that you were concerned that many parents, they don't want to send their kids to school.
Yes.
Is that the main concern or that's not the main?
It depends on the school. It depends on the situation. Like, for example, in our case, as I mentioned, that our schools were affected by Odette, so we have to renovate. We don't have enough classroom to prepare for the face-to-face. So that's our concern, especially in the Visayas.
So it's area concern.
It's area concern.
In other words, doesn't FAPSA also cover Metro Manila, for example?
It covers also. FAPSA is nationwide.
Okay,
FAPSA
so
is
that's the point.
nationwide.
So FAPSA being nationwide, for example,
Yes.
the private schools in Manila, are they prepared to go on full face-to-face?
That's why, Karen, we have different concerns in terms of the preparation, because before we started the enrollment, before we start our school year, there are so many preparations as to the application or requirements as to the health protocol. But it's useful for the school the day, right? Like, for example, the safety seal requirement, and so the schools invested a lot for that, but it's not a question because it's safe, right? We have to continue and we have to live. You're right. We have to live with COVID because COVID is already here. And actually, Karen, our scope now that's why we cater different concerns or issues nationwide, because it's different from region to region.
Yeah. But then if public schools are ready to go on full face-to-face, are you saying that private schools are not?
Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. So it's just it depends on the place or the area or even the region. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going to center on specific areas, what would you write to the DepEd secretary then? Which areas only do you believe are not ready for full face-to-face?
It doesn't mean that since we are affected in the Visayas, we are not all ready. All the schools are not ready. In Mindanao, or some of the areas also were affected of the Typhoon Odette. It doesn't mean that not all areas or not all schools in Mindanao are not ready. The same thing with the areas in NCR, for example. There we have so many concerns. That's why we have to put it into details in our letter request to our DepEd secretary.
All right. Okay. But what is the one compromise that you would possibly ask from the DepEd secretary?
We have to offer because most of us are already, as what I mentioned from the beginning, that we already engage in the different platforms in preparation for the hybrid. So it's a combination of face-to-face, and some of the days they are online or at home. Yeah, so that's our concern. And then we hope, yeah.
Private schools in general as a whole, Leo, or
Yes.
only specific schools? Because then you may have public schools saying, that's unfair. Ang public school nga, pumapasok lahat, mas mahirap pa ang kondisyon doon. Ang private schools, you maybe have 20, 30 in a class.
Yes. So our concern, Karen, is purely for the situation of our private schools. We do not compare to the public schools. Of course, we respect each other. We are not competitors here. We are partners in nation building. Of course, right?
Okay.
So that's why our concern is just this one. We have to put in place what is the current situation. We have to put it into details so that the VP will weigh things out, and then whatever could be the decision, so we have to accept.
All right. But how long do you think you can keep this up? I mean, if you have kids that haven't been in school for 3 years physically, because you're asking for that extension, how will it affect children? Studies have already shown many have lost their social skills. There's a discipline issue. There's an integrity issue for children because it's easy to cheat when you're online. I mean, you know that.
By the way, Karen, the one that I mentioned and talk about hybrid, it's not purely online. So they have to go to school, as you mentioned. They need social skills. Also, they need to interact also with the other kids, the other students. That's why we have different concerns to present, and then that's why we lay down all the situations from different regions. So that's our way of helping our schools. We have to this is the situation of this region, of this place, and so on. And then maybe we can meet halfway. As of now, I don't want to preempt. I do not give what could be the solution, what would be the compromise agreement later on with our Deputy Secretary.
Well, thank you very much, Leo, for joining me this morning.
You're very much welcome. Thank you also for the opportunity, Ms. Karen.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. Head Start will be right back.